Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're going to enter the performance analytics tool. I'm going to click on evaluate performance. Now I'm logged in as a power user. I'm logged in as Tiffany. So if you are all power users on the phone, this will be the same view that you see. If you happen to be a dashboard and alert user type, which is the other type that we have, you're more of a read-only view. So you don't create things, but you can use the existing reports and dashboards that are created for you. So if you are a dashboard and alert user, you would have a different view. You wouldn't have these create buttons at the bottom, and you would have less folders. But you would still have access to the folder that has the dashboards we're going to look at today. And you don't have to worry about taking too many notes. After the call, I'm going to provide some one-page user guides to help you get started, and also the location of the dashboards so that you'll remember where to go to find them. So I made the original templates or versions of these dashboards live in the dashboard folder, which is where SPS deposits all of the new assets that we create for you. And they would be in the fundamental dashboard folder or the strategic. But in this case, I actually made copies so that I could add some additional filters for you. So when you go into the product, you'll want to click through on Share Dashboards and enter that folder. So within the Share Dashboards folder, there's a folder called Best Dashboards. So you'll see there's 6 available at the moment. We have the business overview, the product performance, and the inventory analysis one, which are the 3 that we're going to hopefully get through with today. And the assortment productivity is the one that Nate had alluded to, where you can optimize your assortments for your retailers. So this is a really great one. And we'll, if we don't get to it today, we'll do it next time. And then the other really great dashboard is called the product gap analysis. And this one allows you to discover products that are selling well at one retailer, but are not offered at others, that maybe there's an opportunity to fill in those gaps. And then you also have a SKU rationalization dashboard, which helps you identify bottom performing SKUs that you might want to consider for discontinuation. But today we're going to go into the business overview first. This is the highest level of the 3. So this is the one that you want to use on a weekly cadence so that you can get an understanding of trends in your business and the top performers that are really driving last week's sales. So to run the dashboard, you just click on it. If you're familiar with using reports in our product, oh, I'm sorry, did someone have a question? Okay, if you're familiar with using reports in our product, you usually get a few questions that you need to answer before you run the report or dashboard. We call those the prompts. You'll notice that these dashboards are not prompted, and it's because they've been optimized for performance. So they run automatically as soon as the retailer's information has loaded for last week, and then I guess like a cached version saved, so that when you click on it, it just pops open and you don't have to wait for any runtime. So it's really nice in that respect that it'll perform better for you. And then once you're in all of the dashboards, the filtering options will be along the left-hand side here. So you can see in gray, you've got a filtering option for retailer, for brand, product category, and business vertical. So when you come in, you would be looking at the overall business, but then you have the ability to engage any of these filters where you can do multiple selections to drill down to your area of the business. Now the filtering, you have to do the filtering on each tab or chapter, we call them chapters, of the dashboard. You can see at the bottom here, you've got the business overview, then you've got the summary detail view, and then you've got your top performers. Now, if you find it cumbersome and you don't want to keep making your selections in the filters every time you run the dashboard, and you know that you're always going to be looking at specific set of retailers or even specific brands or categories, you can make all those selections on all of the tabs and then go to the upper left corner, and under File, you have the option to create a personal view. So when you create a personal view, it'll save those filter selections so that next time you come in, you don't need to make them again. So it just makes your life a little easier.
I don't know how to start.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, never mind.
Oh, okay. Let me know if you have any questions. I do talk a little fast, so just feel free to chime in whenever you need me to.
No, I didn't have an invite and I just got on, so I kind of missed the
Oh.
whole getting into it, which is not helping me, but that's all right.
So we're in the business overview dashboard, which you can find in your shared dashboards folder. And then within shared dashboards is a folder called best practice dashboards. So those
Okay.
are the assets that we're reviewing today. Are you
wanna-
able to log in?
You want to quickly walk back through just those steps, Allison? I think that might make
Sure,
sense.
yeah. So,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay. So Aaron, when you first log in, this will be your homepage. You just want to
Right, I'm on that
through-
right. I'm actually on that right now, so I can kind of follow along.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. So now click through on evaluate performance under performance analytics on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And that takes you into the performance tool. Now in performance, you want to click on the share dashboards folder. So it's the third one from the left. And then you want to click through on a folder called best practice dashboards.
Okay.
Are you able to see that?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the spiel that I gave was just that there are 6 available for you, but we're going to be reviewing the fundamentals, which are the business overview, the product performance, and the inventory analysis. And then we'll save the other 3 for another session because they're a little bit more advanced and more detailed.
Okay.
So your business overview is your highest level dashboard, and you'll notice as we walk through it that it allows you to get a very good overview on what's trending or how your business is trending across various time periods and across various categories or brands. And when you come into the dashboard, all of the filtering will be along the left-hand side here. So what I was just going through is that you'll have to filter on each tab or chapter that you click on. And if that becomes cumbersome or too much work or just kind of annoying, you can make those selections one time and then come up here and under File, you would click Create Personal View. And then you can give it a name. You can call it you can leave it as is, or you can add something to the front of it if you want to say it's like My Academy Business Overview or whatever. Click OK. And now when you go into the product, you're not going to go into the shared dashboards folder to run it. You're going to go into your subscription folder. A personal view is technically a subscription because it updates every week. So now here's that subscription I just created. So you would just click on that hyperlink. And when you click on the hyperlink, the dashboard will pop up with all of your filter selections made.
Cool.
So that's kind of a way to just save some time.
Thank you. That's great.
Allison, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you go back in time? Can you get put in date ranges?
So in the business overview, you can't. Everything is kind of static around the NRF calendar, but we do
Okay.
the product performance allows you to select a date range.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm familiar with that. Okay, I just wanted to see if you could do it on the dashboard.
Yeah, there's no way to because it's kind of standardized, it updates itself and refreshes itself every week. Yeah.
That's fine.
But do keep in mind there's so many ways around it. If there's something that you need to get to, there's probably a way I can help you do it. So for example, if you came to me and said, I really love this dashboard, but I need to be able to select a date range or change the date. Like if you want to look at maybe full year last year, what I can show you how to do is to create a report that we would swap out these are called cubes. We would swap out the cube with your report with the same metrics and attributes. And by doing that, you get the prompts back. And when you have the prompts, then you can change the dates.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
there's always ways around things. And I'm very creative coming up with solutions. Alrighty, so let's go.
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah.
So that call out, could we potentially create a duplicate that gives that option to change the date range? Just because I think that comes off more often than not, that we have to look at specific time periods.
Sure. Yeah, we can definitely do that, Tiffany. The only caveat to that is the cube is what's optimized and what allows this to perform very fast. So if we swap it out with a report, there is a very good chance to run it for total business, it's not going to run. It's going to hit like maximum, row errors. But if someone's running it for just a specific retailer, it should be able to execute. So it will just take a little bit longer.
Okay, we could talk about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so when you come into this dashboard, the first view or the first page is where you get your overview in terms of your key performance indicators, your KPIs, in the upper left section, which are grouped by sales at the top, followed by margin information in the middle. So remember, this is your retailer's margin information, and then the inventory positions at the bottom. So you've got your retail on hand, your units on hand, and then also sell-through percents. And the nice thing is that you've got last week lined up next to month to date, season to date, and year to date. So you can kind of look across the time periods and, so we're seeing overall a very small decrease, but in the longer term, we're still up, 10%. So it's nice to kind of have that ability to compare last week versus, a longer time frame. And just to keep in mind, the calendar is always denoted in the left-hand side in the black box. So I know that for example, year to date started in February, first week of February. So we're only really looking essentially at 2 weeks of sales right now because the NRF calendar just restarted in February. The other view that's really lovely on this page that people love is the 52-week look back at sales. So you can see down here, you've got the past 52 weeks, which is going to be a rolling period. So every week you run it, you'll get the newest week added and the oldest week dropped. And you'll be able to see this year with the orange line sales, and then the blue dotted line are your LY sales for comparing. And if you hover over any data point, you get the tooltip, which gives you more information. So you can see the actual variance to LY, what the inventory positions were this year versus last year. I'm actually filtered down to Academy and Dick's, so just keep that in mind. If there's a specific retailer you'd like me to filter on just to give a view that's more pertinent to your business, just let me know. The other thing I want to show you real quick is if you need to see this data in a trend chart instead of a graph, in the upper right corner, there's an option to show data. So if you click show data, then you get a tabular form of all of this information and you can export it to Excel. So that's a very quick way to get the week over week sales from the first page of the business overview. And just remember, it'll be filtered down to whatever you've selected on the left-hand side. In the upper right corner, you're just seeing the retailers sorted descending on sales volume for last week. So the blue bar are the sales last week. The red tick mark is the variance to last year, which correlates to this top axis. So for example, Amazon.com is up, looks like it's about 10%. And then the volume came in, what is that? It's over $1 million. Yeah, 1.1. So after you get this nice overview, you would go to the second page by just clicking on the tab. And you're going to get the same report with an expanded amount of KPIs rolled up at the retailer, and then in the middle at the product level, product category level, and then at the bottom at the business vertical level. So it's the same report repeated 3 times, just summarized at different levels. At the top, you're seeing a visual representation of those 3 levels as a percent to total. So for example, I can see this orange category of ZPFN is making up almost 68% of the total business. So that's really what drove business last week. If I click on it, it actually acts as a filter. So it's a way to very quickly drill down. If you wanted to just use that as your filtering, that's really kind of handy. You can use it on the retailer side. So you can see as I click through on the different pieces of the pie, everything on the bottom updates. Or you can use the filters on the left side as well. Just a few things I want to point out. Most of these metrics are pretty standard, things you're used to seeing, sales, average unit retails, gross margin, weeks of supply. The one thing I want to point out is we've lined up the rank based on last week versus year to date, just so you can compare the two and look for any changes or shifts in the business. So maybe if I go to a specific retailer, I don't know, who should I do? I'll just do Bloomingdale's. Maybe I'll start seeing, I guess they don't have a lot of categories. But the intention of that is just to look for anything that's uptrending or downtrending at a high level. And then at the end of the reports, you're getting a stock to sales difference. So it's a percentage point difference. So as an example, let's take a look at, let's look down here at the lifestyle. The business vertical lifestyle ranked number one, actually, because other is just products that don't have a business vertical. And it's saying here that it's 1.7% of the overall sales. But if you look at the inventory held in that category, it's 1.4% of the overall inventory. Now, this is really just a health check, just to see if you're balanced in terms of the sales to stock. So it's telling you it's 0.3 percentage points difference on the negative side. So you've got a little bit more sales and inventory. And you just want to keep an eye on that. If it's way off, then it's an issue. But these percentage differences are so small, I don't think you've got anything to worry about here. But it's something to keep an eye on. Oh, and then the last thing I want to point out is the weeks of supply have conditional formatting applied. We call it thresholds. And the threshold being used is highlighted yellow if it's under 8 weeks of supply, and highlighted red if it's greater than 20. So anything in yellow could be potentially at risk of running out of stock. Anything in red, I mean, it could have been that the inventories have just receded and the sales haven't caught up, or maybe there's just a glut of inventory. There could be, many reasons for that. But those thresholds can definitely be changed if you feel like those aren't the right thresholds for your business. If you right click on the weeks of supply header, there's an option for thresholds. And here is where you can just click on the numbers to change those different conditions. And you can even double click on the format preview and change the color if you don't like the colors. So there's ways to personalize it, and that would carry through on your personal views. And then you would want to pop over to the last tab just to see what are the top 10 products and stores that really drove business last week. So what the nice thing is you're going to get the same reports. So nothing new to get used to here. Same exact reports as we saw in the second tab. It's just that now we're seeing it for your top 10 styles and your top 10 stores. Now there's a filter on the top here, which defaults to 10. But if, for example, you would like to see the top 15, you can change that number to 15 and then save that in your personal view. And then you're going to see your top 15. So it's flexible in terms of how many you'd like to see. Now, again, this page, it was really important to drill down to your retailers, of course, because of the stores. It's just, nicer to actually see the stores that correlate to your retailer. And you'll notice that the direct or e-com business comes in through one store. It's all lumped together in the one store, and that's usually top of the list because the cumulative e-commerce sales are always greater than any singular brick and mortar location. So you'll see that here with Dillard's Direct. Is there any questions on the business overview? If not, I'm going to go into the product performance. And if you can think of any questions, we can always address them at the end as well. So the next view is one level deeper. We're going to go into the product performance. Now, I like to call this my item selling. This is where you're going to go to see how your products performed at a total level across your different accounts. So there's no store level data in here, but there is the ability to drill down to a location in terms of state. So if you needed to see how products are performing in different parts of the country, you can do that using the state filter. But this is the place where you go to look for uptrending and downtrending products. And then you can see overall inventory levels just to make sure that you can meet that, that demand. So the first 3 tabs you can see at the bottom, we have last week, season to date, and year to date performance. All 3 of these tabs look exactly the same. It's just that the information is updated to the corresponding time period. So if I look at the year to date, maybe I want to drill into a specific business vertical. You have a ring chart here to understand by business vertical what's driving the business year to date, and then also the variance to last year. And I like the variance to last year bar chart because you can very quickly see those outliers. So I can see this blue bar, the business vertical of surf, is up quite significantly to last year. And if I click on that, it'll update the styles in the report. So now I'm just looking at the products that fall within the category of surf. So it's a very quick way to drill down to your area. And if I click it one more time, it would clear the filter. And now I can see golf is also up tremendously, which is no surprise. So you could do the same for golf. So that's a nice way to use the graphs to see where you want to drill into. So now that I've clicked on golf, actually, let me go back to surf. I just think surf would be more interesting for me. So when I click on surf, I can see all the products in that category. Now, what I want to look at here is this column here that's highlighted in yellow or red again. This is essentially a rate of sale calculation. So it's looking at the difference between the average weekly selling in the past 4 weeks versus the past 13 weeks. And it's highlighting anything that's increased 20% or more in yellow, or anything that's decreased 20% or less, negative 20% or less in red. So as an example, this first item here, the baseline hybrid 21, over total business, I'm not drilled down to a retailer, total business, it's selling 59 units per week if you look at the last 4 weeks. Now, if you look at the last 13 weeks, that was 87 units per week. So that's a decrease or a drop off of about 32%. So that's a downtrending item. And conversely, if I look at this one here in yellow, this one here, which one is this? The block graph short, it's selling 12 units per week, whereas it used to be selling, it was selling 6 units per week if you look at the past 13 weeks. So it's uptrending, 100%. So this is just a nice way to very quickly get to those exceptions and those items that you want to keep your eye on. Now further to that, my eye can travel across the columns after that column, and you can get all of your inventory information. So you can see here the sell-through percent for the year, the units on hand, and then of course the weeks of supply, which are important. So this one has been uptrending, and the weeks of supply are highlighted as low because they've fallen under 8. But you can also see if there's orders placed, and that's a good thing. So now I can see with those orders coming in, my weeks of supply goes back up to 6.4, which is a little bit better. So this is a nice report to do like a multi-level analysis in terms of identifying those items and then making sure that the inventory is appropriate at the retailer. Now you can export this to Excel. If you click on those 3 dots in the upper right corner, you can export this to Excel if you want to export it and maybe share it with your buyer or anyone in your company. If you want to export the entire dashboard with the visualizations, you would go up to File and do an export to PDF up there. So the entire dashboard can only be exported to PDF, but each individual container or box can be exported individually as well. Grids can export to Excel, and graphs export to PDF. So that's how you kind of get it out of the product.
Quick question, for the style, are you able to swap that out with a UPC or something like, because some of these, just have the first part of the style number and then the frame description. When you're looking at eyewear, it just says injected glasses. Are you able to swap that out with like a UPC?
We actually don't have UPC in the data set that's feeding the dashboard. If you were to create something brand new, you could. But in this case, we had selected style as the attribute to represent your product IDs. See, if you right click on any column header, there's an option to replace it. So you can pick something else if you'd rather see something else. But unfortunately, we don't have any other product IDs.
I see. Okay.
See that you can swap it out with like one of these, but I don't think that's going to help.
I think that the key here is that these dashboards were built with some selections for attributes, but the power of performance analytics is that if you wanted to create a report utilizing UPC, you can definitely do that. And we can certainly also help make dashboards that are specific to your needs there. Because you have that attribute in your item master, it's definitely something that we can help you with.
Okay, great.
And if you were to, David, if you were to create a brand new report, you could do it with all these same metrics And you can even use this as a guideline. So if you right clicked on anything that's custom, you can edit the formula and just copy and paste the formula into your new report to get the same formula. So recreating it is quite easy. I mean,
Okay.
metrics come from our metric library, but there are some that are custom. But I can always help rebuild any report you need.
Allison, question. So, I mean, just to really leverage these, right? So since they're pre-designed and they look very, beneficial, something as simple as UPC, could we possibly add it to the query, or is it just too much data so that we don't necessarily have to recreate reports?
It's a great question. I have tried to request UPC be added previously, and I got the answer no, and I'm blanking on what the reason was, but there's something very specific about UPC because it's like our, it's like the main key that identifies
yeah.
all the products. Yeah, Michael, do you have any?
No, it's just that it's the core attribute off of which everything's
Yeah.
driven. And if you start with that in these dashboards, it gets wonky. But it's a good question, Tiffany. We certainly can try to build something using UPC that's separate to these dashboards, but it feels like it's going to be hard to get UPC into these.
Mhm. Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last tab of this dashboard is the place where you can filter down to a specific date range. So I feel like this last tab could be quite useful for very quick ad hoc analyses. So if you wanted to get a report for maybe it's a marketing campaign or a social media campaign, or maybe there was a fixture, some new fixtures installed at some of the stores, anything like that, you have the ability to filter down pretty low. So you can do retailer and state, and then all of these, even down to the style. And then what you would do is you would engage these time sliders at the top. So you'll be able to go back 52 weeks. And the start date is the one on the left. So if you just click on it and drag it, you can drop it to any start date you want. So if you wanted to, for example, see how last September performed, you can drop it right here to week ending September 5th. And then you can do the same with the end date and drag it back maybe the first week of October. I'll just drop it right there. And then as I do that, you'll notice that the report below it has been updating. Now it's just sorted on style. Sorry, those style numbers are long. I'm just noticing that. So the report isn't really that helpful at the moment, but you can always resort it. So if, for example, you right click on retail sales and click advanced sort, you have the option to do a multi-level sort, or you can just do a straight up descending on sales to see top performers for that time period at the top of the report. And you have your total lines at the top. So if, for example, you needed to compare 2 time periods, you can do the same thing on this side and then look at the total lines. So if I filter to the same number of weeks, then these are comparable reports. So I can look at the total sales for each period and understand if there was a sufficient lift in sales for the promotion, so you can understand the return on investment. Or you can just use these for just very quick ad hoc reports. Now they are style level, but if, for example, you only needed to see it at a higher level, you can right click and do a replace with. So maybe I want to see my sales at the brand level. I can replace style with brand, and then I can right click on frame and say remove. So now I've got a report summarized at the brand level for that time period. So it's very flexible and easy to generate ad hoc analyses using this last tab. And they have all the main metrics that hopefully you should need in terms of sales, gross margin, AUR, and then inventory and ranking. Are there any questions on how to use this last tab? Because I really think it's going to be a time saver for you. Cool. Well, as you guys
All right, quick question. Can you show how to use it comparatively? So with both sides, maybe an example?
Sure. Okay, so I did drill down to the month of September 2020. So we're starting week ending September 5th, going through week ending October 3rd. So that's essentially the month of September. So maybe there was some sort of I'm just going to make this up. Maybe there was some sort of promotion during that period. and I want to see the period leading up to it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drill down to just maybe August, because I want to see the sales for the month leading into it. And I'm going to filter down to the same number of weeks. So 4 weeks versus 4 weeks. Now I did switch this out to brand. So I'm going to go back and replace my style and go back to a style level report. Where did it go? I think I have to locate it in the dashboard. I mean, in the, sorry, the data set panel. Oh my God, I'm like blanking. Sorry, my eyes are going batty. And then I have a frame description. Here we go. Okay, so I had sorted this one descending on sales. So I'm going to do the same on this side. You have to use the advanced sort. For some reason, the quick sort doesn't always work. Okay, so now I can see what my, for example, like my top 10 products for the period leading up to September are right here. And then you can see the top performers, maybe the top 10 you can cut it off at for this period. But what I want to look at essentially is this total line here. So I can see the total sales for the month of September came in at 12.8 million compared to the previous month of August at about 15 million. So, you know, this isn't, of course, the data isn't jiving with my made up example, but the essentially you would just be comparing these total lines and calculating the difference between the two to understand the percent variance or the lift. And then further to that, you can see if your AURs were affected. So overall, in this example, it looks like the AURs remain the same. But if you were doing a promotion and, you know, maybe offering some sort of discounts, you would see those AURs drop, and you might see the gross margins drop as well, depending on the type of promotion that happened. And then you can understand if the inventories were depleted. So you can look at the inventories further along and see if they're still okay after the promotion. So you can use it for those couple of reasons. And then you can get the detail right below the total line if you needed to drill into the style level. And then if you needed to, you could always, you know, file and PDF this page to kind of share it with anyone or maybe your, you know, account to just show them how the performance was affected by your campaign.
This is great. Allison, would you say that the key variable here would be knowing when that promotion hits and knowing the promotional period?
Yes, definitely. Definitely knowing the promotional period. And the other key is just making sure you're comparing apples to apples. So make sure that the number of weeks you're filtered to are the same on each side, just so that you can normalize it and actually compare them. Great. Well, I hope that you find this one. This is the one that I get feedback on that people find super, super helpful. All right, so the last dashboard that we're going to drill into today, this one goes down to the lowest level you can go. So it is going down to the store and essentially UPC level. I'm not sure exactly if it's quite UPC, but it's at the style and, sorry, I forget the levels that we selected. It's going down to the style, frame, and lens. What's the other one? And color level. So I'll show you what we mean once we get into it. And so this is a dashboard you want to use if you want to find opportunities to drive more orders, or if you want to help the retailer balance their inventories. If you have the opportunity to recommend store transfers, or at least highlight areas where they have too much inventory and then areas where they have too little inventory, whether they can act on it or not, it's still something to know so that go forward, they can rebalance their inventories and order more appropriately, or distribute the inventory from their distribution centers more appropriately. It's just nice to keep an eye on this and call it out because they might not be looking at this level of detail since it's such a low level. So when you come into this dashboard, because it's very data heavy, most of the work is on the second tab or the third tab, but we've inserted a summary at the front of the dashboard just so you can kind of understand maybe what areas or what specific styles you want to drill into in the subsequent tab. So what I mean here is we're looking at a benchmarking comparison in the upper left corner based on weeks of supply. So for example, I can see here the business vertical of bike has a weeks of supply represented by this orange bar of 358.2 weeks of supply. Let me drill down to a retailer. I think this makes much more sense when I'm drilled down. Is there any particular one that someone's interested in seeing? Anyone? I don't mind. If nobody selects, I'm going to go with REI. They only have a couple. Maybe that was, I want one with more business.
DSG.
DSG, okay. Okay, so when you come in here, you drill down to the retailer because dashboard is definitely important to look at one retailer at a time because we're looking at store level. So now I can see here, when I look at this graph, this is the first area that calls out to me. This business vertical of snow has weeks of supply of 2.2, which is quite low, which is represented by the orange bar. And it's comparing it to this black tick mark. So you can see it's far below the black tick mark, which is the weeks of supply of the overall category of ZAFA or ZAFA. Which has a weeks of supply of 4.1. So it's under indexing the category that it falls into. And then you can see here on the right what the overall inventory, the value of the inventory that Dick's Sporting Goods has for this vertical. So what I'm going to tell myself is on the next tab, I'm going to filter down to business vertical of snow and see exactly which products are causing that shortage. Now, before I move off this page, though, I want to look at this report on the upper right-hand corner, which is very simple. It's just these vertical and style and description sorted ascending on weeks of supply so that you can see the styles that have the lowest inventory at the top of the list. And you have a store count here just to help you weed out those items that are not really something you want to look at because they don't have full distribution. So you can see like these two items here, they're only in a couple stores. It could have been that, someone returned product to those stores, but they're not actually selling out of those stores. So you might not want to pay attention to these small ones, and you might only want to look at the ones that have a broader distribution. For example, the injected unisex goggle, it's item number 7113. It's in 432 stores at Dick's Sporting Goods, and the overall weeks of supply is only 0.6. So I'm going to make a note that this style is one that I want to look into on the next page to see what stores need more inventory specifically. And then I can get my recommended order quantities on the second tab as well, which is really nice. I'm not going to review these bottom two graphs are just a view by state. So if you wanted to do an inventory analysis by state, you can understand what parts of the country are under or over inventoried. But using those two examples, I can drill down to snow or I can drill down to style 7113. So now I'm going to go over to the second tab. So first thing I'm going to do on the second tab is I'm going to drill into style 7113. Now the second tab is a little, lots of data here. You're basically looking at a style summary at the top. And in the middle, you're looking at the store level detail for all of your styles, but essentially you do want to drill down to a style. So you can use the style filter here and filter down, or you can click to filter in the report at the top. So if you saw a style, on the top that you wanted to drill into, everything here has a lot of inventory. These are your top performers. It's sorted on rank. But if you scroll down and you find one that's low, so for example, this style here is pretty low in inventory. It's highlighted in yellow. I can click on that style ID, and that also filters the bottom two reports. So now you can see which locations and which colors of that style have what their inventory positions are and how much inventory they need to get back to a healthy level. So, so let's see here. So the inventory need calculation is based on a threshold of 10 weeks of supply. So this is the amount of inventory that you need to get back to a 10 weeks of supply level. So you can see that there are 41 units on hand. So this is just saying an additional 221 pieces are necessary to get back to a 10 weeks of supply level. Sorry, I did not filter down to retailer, mistake number one. First thing you want to do is filter down to the retailer. Okay, oh, sorry, I didn't clear my style filter. If you click on the blue box is what you're filtered on. If you click on that blue box one more time, it clears the filter. And then you can come here, I'll drill down to Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay, now here's that item I identified on the first tab, 7113, and it is highlighted that it's very low, and it's also kind of towards the top of the list. It's ranked number 24 overall. If I click on it, now I'm going to see the stores in the middle that have an additional need. I'm going to click this little icon here with the opposite arrows to expand this report so we can take a closer look at it. So it just made it full screen, but you can kind of pop back and forth. See the arrows are now pointing at each other. So if you click that, it puts it back in. And if you click it again, it pops it back out. It's just so you can get a better view and get a full screen view of the report. So now what this is saying here is the e-com location, dsg.com is the one with the greatest inventory need, which is, usually what I see. It's saying there's 200 additional pieces of this specific style that are needed to get back to 10 weeks of supply, because right now it's not showing any. Now it might just be that DSG doesn't assign their inventory levels to the .com location. It could be fulfilled out of another location. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you see zero inventory at the .com facility. That in most cases, I'm noticing that they're just fulfilling it out of another location. But if we look at the first brick and mortar example, it's saying that it has 0 on order, 1 piece on hand. And if I travel the line, I can see it's selling about 1 unit per week. Last week it sold 3 units. So it looks like last week was probably depleted, because if it was selling on average 1 unit, if you look at the past 4 weeks, and then so last week has increased, it's 3 units. So what this is saying is another 12 pieces to this Lakewood, Colorado store would bring the inventory level back, or the weeks of supply back to 10 weeks of supply. So that's how you can get your order recommendations broken out by store. Now, if you don't care to see it broken out by store and you just want to say to DSG, look, you need to order an additional 500 units of this style because you're at risk in many of your locations, you can always do it that way. But then you can always have the supporting information you need to tell them exactly what stores need the inventory as well. The bottom report is the opposite scenario. So it's styles that have too much inventory, and too much being the overage, which is anything above 10 weeks of supply. So if I pop this out, what that means is that the style, all the DCs are at the top, so that's why they're showing no sales. But if I look at the first brick and mortar location of Salem, Oregon, it's just saying that this product has not been selling, but it has inventory. It has inventory, 1 unit on hand, 8 units on order. So it's got 14 more units than it needs because it's not selling. That's kind of not a great example. But as you scroll down, you can start finding more interesting examples. So it's really just the inventory over that 10 weeks of supply threshold. And you might find yourself not really caring about overages, or really only caring about the needs, which are your orders, which is probably more often than not the, what you want to focus on. The last tab of this dashboard is the opposite analysis. So this one starts at the style level and then drills down to the stores for a specific style. But if you would rather drill into a store, so maybe there's a flagship store, or maybe a specific store that you're doing some social media campaigns around or anything like that, you can use the door analysis tab. Now, this is the same analysis. It's just that you're starting with a store summary at the top. So if I drill down to DSG, I'll be able to see the top ranking stores at DSG at the top of this report. So I can see the first brick and mortar location is the Upland, I can't pronounce that, in California. If I click on that store, then below it, I can see which products or which styles in that location only have an additional inventory need. So you get to see all the products for that location. So this is, quite handy if you want to drill into a very specific door. But more often than not, the second tab is the way to go because you want to start at the style level and drill into the store. But it's totally personal and up to your specific business use case. I know this dashboard is probably the most overwhelming of the three, so I'll give it a minute to marinate and let me know if you have any questions on that. We have a few more minutes. So if you want me to review anything on this dashboard, I'm happy to. I guess the one thing I didn't point out here is in your style performance summary at the top, you're getting some nice metrics to help you understand at a normalized level how the styles are performing. So you have a store count and you've got the average sales units per door in that third column here. You've got a 4-week average sell-through. So you can look at just last week's sell-through and then you can also look at the 4-week average. So those are some additional custom metrics we added in. And then we also have here an adjusted weeks of supply, incorporating these on orders. Now, of course, we don't have a date here to know when these on orders are receding. So you might want to kind of drill into that on your end to make sure that those orders are coming in sometime in the near future. If they're like 6 months out, then you don't want to count on those as part of, what you need now to fill demand. I guess if no one has any questions, we can open it up to general questions. Does anybody have anything specific that they'd like to know how to do in the product with the last 5 minutes? Whether it be within these dashboards or just in general?
I have a quick question and I could take it offline after, but I have an account Big Five that used to be on here and they're no longer I'm not seeing them on my SPS. Do I work with you guys to get them back on there?
I think that would be a question for Nathan and Tiffany.
Okay.
In terms of, we'd have to probably get an agreement in place and those types of things, and then we'd have to implement it. But yeah, that would be something we certainly can do.
All right, I'll reach out after. Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. So after you guys start using these, you can reach out to me with any questions, or Tiffany or Nathan. And once you're comfortable with these, then we can schedule another session and dive into the assortment productivity and the product gap analysis. I think that those you'll find quite useful as well.
I'd be curious to get some feedback from the Oakley Luxottica team, just some general insights or thoughts about how effective you think these might be in your day-to-day work.
I know this is Aaron from that does AFA. If you guys, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
So for me, the biggest issue for me is that out of all, I've got a pretty decent account base, and I believe Hibbett is the only one currently available to me on SPS that we actually sell, the apparel, footwear, accessory categories to. Mm-hmm. Because I do think it's really useful. I think there's so much going on here. It's going to take me a while to kind of wrap my head around it, but it would, the more accounts I had on it, the better.
Right on. Well, that's music to our ears. But yeah, that's, again, I forget who had asked the prior question, but that's more of a conversation that you guys might want to have with Tiffany in terms of trying to maximize the coverage that you have for all of your wholesale partners here. And we certainly have opportunities to expand coverage with our retail network. We've got a lot of connections that we can bring to the table here. So certainly would love to help you guys expand your coverage.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And this is Andy. I work with Aaron on the apparel, footwear, accessories side of the business as well. Really useful information. The majority of our volume and our products are seasonal, so they expire every 6 months versus, some of the eyewear SKUs that can live for years and years. So what we're going to do as a team is kind of work with some of this, what you showed today, Allison, and then
Mhm.
reach out individually to Tiffany and Nathan on just some customization, just some really top line, like recurrent type of metrics so that we can look at it on a weekly basis, a 4-week basis versus year ago and so forth. That's really the next level on how we're going to expand our assortment within the SBS accounts that we do have.
Right. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, and we can always build some custom like trending out if you're, if you're very
Yes.
seasonal. For more seasonal businesses, I have built out more specific views using like weekly trends. So you can understand like, percent sold by week and, how it looks week over week.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we would obviously identify the subcategories and then items within that have been evergreen or recurrent for a number of years. So we can have an apples to apples comparison, not only versus prior 4 weeks, but from a year ago as well.
Right, right.
I don't want to commit too much for Allison, but because, but I will, because we recognize you guys as a strategic account. We assign Allison as a resource that is available to help you guys in these
Great.
instances where you want to maybe customize a little bit, dig a little bit deeper. Her consultation is very helpful for other clients that are utilizing her skills. So, I think Allison would welcome that.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
I have a question real quick. This is Rob. I'm on the Oakley Ray-Ban key account side. Obviously, sorry. I created a personal view while we were kind of working, while you were showing how to do it. Where do I find that in my subscriptions once it's created, like the shortcut? How do we get to it?
So when you click on, when you go back to the homepage and click on the subscription folder on the right side, do you not see your personal view there? You should see it.
No, I've got the control panels open. Okay, I'll go back to the homepage and try there.
Yeah. If not, maybe you can share your screen and I can help.
Yeah, actually, I can get back there. Okay, I see it.
Did you find it?
I've got it. Yeah.
The subscription is there?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
just,
good.
it had to refresh.
Oh, good. Okay, nice.
Nathan and Tiffany, anything that you would want to say to close out? Any comments from you guys?
I think overall, this is great. These are great resources. Thank you, Allison, for spending the time and really dedicating your focus into making it not just a data tool, but an analytical tool. I think like some of the individuals have said that we need to kind of absorb it and see how it works for our day-to-day. When it comes to accounts, that's really a conversation, everyone, we need to have in partnership with Brian. And we can work through that, which ones are most meaningful to add on. But just overall, thank you, Allison, for your work.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to help.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you guys spending an hour with us. We hope it was a productive time for you, and have a good rest of the week. And we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you.
take care,
You guys.
everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.